Welcome in, everyone. This is our flow recap for the week of 10/14/2024 to 10/18/2024. We are going to go through our flow that came in this week, kind of go over what made it interesting, kind of look at the raw flow, and go over the max return of the contracts. I will be posting the max return. Again, you're never expected to exit at the top, usually unrealistic, but I like to just show the full range of the trade for just transparency purposes. So let's get started here. So first up on 10/14 end, let me just again for transparency, second here. So again, I will always post all of our flow in here. I don't edit anything. All of our flow comes in here. We also have some different flow in charts which I didn't record, but we had like NVIDIA this week. This was public as well, but everything will be posted in real time. I don't edit anything. So let's get started here. So this was back on Monday, 10/14. So we had BTI, the 12/20, 36 calls. So looking here, and I'll also kind of give some tips and tricks here as well too, but here's our flow that came in on 10/14. We had a 105 average. And we can see this is that whale entry here. So we had 5,776 contracts traded for 608,000 here. That was our initial entry. These, so we had about 6,000 contracts traded on the day there, or well, 12,000 total contracts traded on the day there, 10,000 carried over. And this one actually does overlap earnings as well, so I will make a note of that too. Earnings, big gamble, whole different thing, but here's our flow. This flow ran from 105, and we hit a high of 137 here on the 16th, and we can see that right up here. Actually hit 133, 137, 133. So these ran for a max return of 30.48% here. And looking at the net premium at the time, let's bump this back 7 days. Again, you can see we didn't get a lot of volume here. We had a massive spike in that net call premium here on the 14th. This is where that came in. Looks like the whale's still in there running about 57. Whales down about 50% on them if they were truly buying these. But these contracts did hit that 30% return there of 105 to that 137. Again, you can see that here. And let's look at the raw flow too. So I always like looking at the raw flow just so you can kind of get an idea. Again, so we had the descending fill here. Obviously, sometimes I do like having the flow alerts on here so I can see what it is. If it's like an ascending fill, repeated hits, descending fill, all of that. Nice to look at that. You should always be looking at the raw flow. And looking at this one, you can see we're all a little wider spread here, about a 10-cent spread here, and we're getting filled at that ask side. Good size, good volume. That IV's staying up, not seeing it drop or anything. So that to me looks like a buy. So moving on here, we have Mara on the 11/1/18 call. And these filled at 125. Here's our whale entry, 125, 126. These are hitting a new high today of 199. So these are up about 59.20% here. So again, had some volume come in here again at 151. So, and this was on the 17th. Let's take a peek. So yeah, a lot of that probably looks like it might have switched hands because we didn't have a change in open interest really the next day into the 18th. But we can see that volume from the 14th, about half of that carrying over. So they could have took some profits here intraday maybe. Kind of hard to tell. Could have took some at that top there, about 138 from that 126. Harder to tell on kind of flow like this where it gets kind of muddy, but obviously if you held, and there's still 14 days left on these. So you held, I mean, they're running about 186, 199 right now, 59%. looking at the flow here, and sometimes it doesn't like to cooperate when it's a little older. We'll look at the one before that. Yeah, sometimes when it's a little older like that, doesn't like to populate in there sometimes. We're going to try one more here. Let's remove this. It's going to bring us to the 18th. Okay. We will pass on that one. We'll move on to a different one. But yeah, this flow obviously will, you'll probably see the IV increasing and spot increasing there as well. We'll find one here, and let's take a peek at the net premium here. Again, last 7 days, seeing a lot of spikes in that net call ask side premium. Not a lot of bid side ask bid side premium. Good volume on the net call premium as well. So again, those running 125 to 199 for 59.20%. Next up, we have coin, the 1025 220 call. So these came in on the 14th. Here's our entry, 254, 267-ish was the average on there. So clicking at the flow at first. So kind of some more size there, so it's a little harder to, you don't have a big list of it coming in. We'll see some examples of that later in the video, but good example here. We had that, so we have a wider spread to begin with. We had a large amount come in right at the ask side here. So that's showing aggression to me. Then we do have a small dip in that spot price, but again, we're still leaning on that ask side. So this is kind of where reading flow you can kind of see what side they're on a little bit more, if it's kind of more of a mid-fill like that. And looking at our IV, we do see a small drop here, but again, with that ask side fill, I can kind of overlook that IV sometimes. And also, looking at this, again, your net premiums on the 14th, massive spike in that net call premium. And again, not a lot of put premium coming in kind of flat, but that big spike in that net call premium signal that it's more than likely a buy there. So you're looking at the 14th, we had about half of that volume carry over, and to me it looks like they probably took some profits off here. Maybe here could have took some 1,000 candles or 1,000 contracts traded here after that initial about 1,500. So we only had about 2,400 carry in. Actually, my math is bad. That probably did, most of that did come in. But we're looking here, so 254, and again, these hitting the high today on Friday at 870. These ran from that 267 entry all the way up to 870, so that's 225%. Again, seeing a lot of bid side volume in here, so I'm guessing we're seeing profit taken throughout on these spikes. But again, this is the max return. And we saw that flow, how it kind of came in more on that ask side there. So up next, we had, this whale was selling puts. So we're on to 1015 now. This whale was selling puts. So they want these contracts essentially to go to zero. So let's take a peek at how they are doing, because they're trying to collect premium on these. So we had our bid side flow come in here on the 15th. And again, when you look at that, so here's a good example. We have a descending fill. So when you look at that, you can see that spot price decreasing. Little jump here, but still decreasing overall. We look at that IV. IV is decreasing as well. Signs of somebody selling contracts. And I do always like looking at the net premium here. Again, not seeing a lot of put net premium. And then we do have a big spike of net call premium on the 16th and on the 14th and 15th as well. So to me, that's kind of telling me people are a little more bullish on Carvana right there. And we can see here, so these whales sold these contracts at 125, I believe was my average. It's going to say 116 here, but I had 125 down. These are now running at a low of 68 cents. So about 45% of that premium was collected by these. So when I always look at selling puts or calls, I always look at it as neutral to puts would be neutral to bullish, calls would be neutral to bearish, because they don't need the stock to move to collect that premium. Theta is their friend on that. So again, those contracts being sold at 125, running at 68, they're collecting about 45.60% on those. Next, we had an ETF, so we had GLD, so gold. Nice easy one here. Filled these at 279. They're running at a high of 520 today, 86.38%. Pretty easy. Whale still in. You can see that volume here. Majority of it carrying over, not seeing a lot coming off. Take a peek at that flow here. So again, IV staying up, IV staying up, and we're being filled at the ask. Textbook flow, that's exactly what I'm looking for right there. And let's take a peek how that net premium was looking, come back 7 days. Again, majority of it, ask side call, net premium, spike, not seeing a lot of spikes in net put premium, except for yesterday on the 17th. But looking like a lot of that's fallen off now, but we've been kind of slowly grinding up all week here. These running from 279 to 520 again, 86.38% on those. So CNX up next. So these a little longer in days of expiration on here. We got 91 days on here. So again, two big entries here, and can tell that both of these carried over because we got about 20,400 contracts here, another 22,000, so you're about 50,000 here. So you see that 15th, majority of that carrying over, majority of it still there. Looking at the flow, again, repeated hits ascending fill, so that means that fill is increasing as we go up. Can see that IV starting to increase as well too, and then when we have the low historic volume floor one come in here, big jump in the IV and big jump in the spot price with that wider bid ask. So very interesting to see this one. Earnings are in 6 days. I did make note of that. I will note it if there's earnings coming around, so this is probably an earnings play. This whale, so their fill was 120. They're running about 82, 88-ish right now. I've got 88. What do we got right here? So 88 today. So they're down about 26% on there, but again, 91 days to go on the contracts. Looking at the net premiums, again, not a lot going on here. Big spike in net call premium the one day. We did move up that day. Big spike in the net put premium. Haven't really made a huge move here on that either. So something to keep eyes on with that. So up next we have MU, the 11-1-106 calls. Again, this was a really good one this week. Here's our entry at 363. I have 365. These hitting a high of 792 today. Actually, these hit a high of 942 yesterday, so a little higher there. So I've got that 363 all the way up to 942 yesterday, running 158% on those. Looks like a majority of this is still in. Well, how many contracts? So 500 contracts on that one. So it's going to be a little tougher to kind of track this because it's not a massive whale. Let's look at the flow here too. So again, can kind of see that IV before the whale comes in. A little lower than we have a spike in that IV as the whale comes in. Being filled at the ask side on the wider spread. Again, IV staying up, not seeing it drop. All ask side fills there. Good sign, good textbook sign of buying. Again, can see it worked out nice and perfect. Take a peek at the net premium. So again, the last 7 days, this is a good example here. Huge spike in net call premium, spikes every day in net call premium, massive spike here on the 16th as well too, and here we are, big run up. So very nice flow there on the MUs. So up next we had AMD 1018 148 puts. These expire today. And these, so these came in on the 15th. We'll take a peek at the flow first. So 5908, that IV. Let's see if it's going to bump this out. So again, can see when that flow started to come in, spike in that IV. Seeing that ask side fills, repeated hits all the way up. So looks good there. Here's our whale right here that entered. So they entered these at 49. These did hit a high of 60 same day. 60, 61 on the actually 15th. Where did we get? Oh, we had a high of 69. So these actually ran 0.49 to a high of 0.69. So about 40% on those. Thought it was a little bit lower, but we can see some of that volume towards the end of the day here. And again, we had 1,900 contracts here on the 15th. So about double that volume here, only about half of that carrying over. Whale probably took off some profits up in here. It looks like can always exit at the ask too. That's just what the fill is. That's why you should always be looking at the raw flow too. Looking at the net call premium or net premiums, spike in net put. Still pretty bullish here, but kind of dying off here a little bit on both sides. So those running from 0.49 to 0.69, 40% on those. Next up we have IWM 1122 232 call. Here is our whale. Let's take a peek at the flow. Maybe if I can click. Pump this out. And this is kind of the order of operations I like to do stuff too. I pull on that first volume. I always check the raw flow before looking at anything else. The entry can be clean, but again, not all ask side stuff is a buy. Not all bid stuff is a sell. Keep that in mind. This is why you should always do a little research too in here. So again, IV staying up. Taking a peek here, IV doesn't decrease. Actually, it drops a little bit there, but it's not a lot of contracts. But then we do pop here again just 1 second later. So this is, you can make an educated guess. This is probably the same person, but we jump in IV there. Again, seeing that spot price fill at that ask side. The spot is just what the price is being filled at. So again, coming up here and just seeing it stay at that ask side, good sign. And again, these filling at that 431 and hitting a high of 521 the same day, actually. But otherwise, they are running about 440 right now. So a whale's still up. It's in about break even right now, but whale's still in. It looks like about 35 days to go on these. But these did run same day, 431 to 521. About 20.88% on those. Good little trade there. And here are kind of some messier net premiums here. A lot of ask side ETFs. You're going to see a lot more flow on both sides of things. But a lot of kind of mixed flow. A lot of ask side and calls and puts there. All right. So moving on. Next we have Upstart. So these were the 11-150 puts. And here is our entry. Looks like this whale is still in. Contracts moving from that 238, and they did hit a high. Same day of 310. Really quick spike when those came in. So a little harder to kind of adjust your stop up quick, but again, seeing 285 here yesterday. I mean, there's been enough time to get some profits out of here if you were doing that. About 26% if you're doing that 285 average there. I won't go with that spike because it's a higher spike there, but about 285. So running about 225, 285. Still 14 days left on them. You can see that right here. And looking at our net premiums. Again, not much. A lot of bullish here. So AMD. This would have been another quick one here. So 448 was our fill. 448, 450. These hitting a high actually of 505 here on the 17th. So yesterday hitting 505. So 450 to 505, just a little over 10% at 12%. And I'm not going to dive into every single piece here. We'll just kind of go over everything now. DraftKings here, so selling the puts. Again, here is our flow. Let's take a peek. We'll look at some of this stuff. So again, looking at that IV still stays up, but we do drop here towards the end. And seeing kind of that more bid side fill here, which you can assume are sells. That's one thing that you look for. So these DraftKings depreciating, again, they're selling these puts, so they want them to depreciate. And it looks like they might have came in for another round here too. But these running at a low of 45 today, collecting about 52% of that premium. Next up, we have SMCI. This was a really good one, especially if you got in the dip. Here is our whale. These actually came in. A lot of trades came in on this right at the same time. Let's bump this out, 250. So here's how that flow came in. So again, can see that IV increasing all the way up. Ask side fills. IV increasing, ask side fills. IV increasing again when that second block of them came in. We had about 4 blocks of these come in. And that, again, ask side fills. IV increasing. Drops a little bit here with some mid-side fills, but still on that ask side. Then we had a big spike here. Or just a little drop off. This one wasn't part of that one. But this was probably, this one timing wise second after. Yeah, this is probably the same whale. And then we have more coming in up here as well too. Some more sweeps coming in here. So that really stuck out. And when you look at that one, and actually that here's our SMCI. So if you just quickly look at this, when this came in on the flow feed like that, you can easily see right away that spot price is increasing. That's a good sign right there. And then you have repeated hits, ascending fill, repeated hits. Sticks out to me like that. And this flow made a good move, and it looks like they may have exited today at the ask. Don't know how to check on Monday, or they got some more. But these running from that 60 was our fill with the average. These hitting a high of 95 yesterday at 10:17. So these running from 60 to 95 for 58.33%. And this is a good reason why you should always adjust your stops up and have a proper risk management plan, because SMCI today did move up a little bit more too, and these contracts dropped all the way down to 43. So this whale gave up a 60% return for these to go negative. That is not a good trade. Just because they're green again doesn't mean that it's a good trade. You should never be giving up a 60% return. That is not good, especially with contracts that expire soon, because theta will be picking up on them. Should always have stops in place, trailing stops on something, so you can secure profits in case something comes down like that. But we'll see what happens with this one. Really interesting there. But these running again 0.60 to 0.95. And that net premium again on the 17th yesterday, lot of ask side net premium. Big spike into the end of the day on the 16th when these came in with a huge drop in net call premium towards the end of the day. Something that stuck out there. So OKLO. So again, longer term ones here, 154 days out. Here's our entry yesterday, 224 on these, 225, hitting a high of 350 today, 55% on those in 2 days with over 154 days left on those. Lucid, again, longer time frame on these, 154 days. These ones were filled at 62. They're running about 46 right now, 47. They are down about 25-ish percent, 24%, 25%. Again, 154 days on there. It's a slower mover. Does overlap earnings as well, too, on the 7th. So a little harder to do that one right now, but right now we'll say they're down about 25%. NVIDIA, again, little longer term one here, does overlap earnings. 117, 170 call. And this one, I'm going to go to the 17th to take a peek at how it came in. So we had the ask side fill here and some bid side fill after. So with these on the 17th, we had about 18,000 on this candle and about 12,000 there. So we're missing about 13,000 in open interest here from that total volume. So this whale may have closed some yesterday. They might have just been looking for a quick scalp, but hard to kind of know with that one. I mean, average fill was 554. Actually, I have 565 written down. And they exited at 565. So these, I mean, they would, let's see, so 554. And then if they would have exited at 565, that only gives us not even 2%. So that's interesting. It's probably a longer play here, obviously. And let's take a peek at the net premium. Net premium on this, I mean, bears non-existent pretty much. Huge spike in that net call premium. Spikes the last 2 days in that net call premium. Something to watch over time. Again, earnings in 32 days. We had some hood puts here. And again, 7 days on these. Doesn't overlap earnings. Could have been a sell at the ask. We'll have to take a peek. We have that IV increasing. So a little harder to tell here, but you have that IV increasing. Ask side fills. That IV increasing. Ask side fills. Sometimes they're wrong. We don't know what they're looking at, but these are down. Actually, these hit. So 48 was their entry. These did hit a high of about 54 after that. Let's see, 57 same day. So these did run about 18%. That's not a bad idea to adjust stops up. Something I like to do, every time when I see 10%, I like to put a break-even stop on and start adjusting up every 5%. Shouldn't be letting something that's up 20% go negative anyways. But otherwise, if this whale is still in, and it looks like they 1,000, yeah, most of the whale would still be in, and they're down from here. They're running about 23. So again, if you're interested in chasing, maybe could always look at that. Not a lot of net premiums here either. Just flat spike in that net call on the 11th. So what's next? We have EQT. So EQT, 28 days on these. Looking here, IV staying up. Ask side fills. Looks like a buy there. 11 days, so this does overlap earnings. And yeah, these only hit about a 5% return, so probably an earnings play here. And the net premiums. Again, not a lot going on here, just a spike back here on the 4th and the 16th. So I'd say to be decided on that. PDD, these just came in today on the 18th. So pretty flat on these right now. BX, these actually made a nice move today. So 163, and they hit a high of 202 today. Moving 163, 202, about 23% on those. And let's look at the volume or the flow today. Again, see that IV increasing all the way up, repeated hits ascending fill. That spot price is being filled, textbook flow. That is all I got for everybody this week. If you're interested in trying Stock Hub, again, I will drop the link in the description. If you're interested in trying unusual whales at a discounted price, I will also have that link in the video below. Otherwise, everybody have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.